Well, everybody, it's October. The spooky season is upon us. And what better way to celebrate this year's spooktacular festivities than go over some of the scariest things in automotive history. This month, expect to see some pretty fantastical stories, some rather haunted cars, and like today's episode, some of the most dangerous cars you could have ever bought. Ladies and gentlemen and everything in between, welcome to Spooktober. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Lanza. I am the primary host of the show. And if you've never seen our content before, we do builds, reviews, and have fun, candid conversations about cars, like the one we're about to have today, about some of the most dangerous cars that were ever made. If any of that sounds interesting to you, as I am surrounded by project stuff everywhere, please consider subbing and let's talk about some of these scary cars. To kick off this list, we have to go over a couple of minor caveats. These vehicles that are on this list were dangerous from factory. There was something wrong with them. There was something about them that wasn't quite right. And they earned a very scary reputation. There are things on here that some of you will know off the bat, and there are some that are on here that you may not have thought about until now. Without further ado, let's carry on. To kick off my list, I want to start off with something that I actually almost bought, and that is an old Ford Pinto. The Ford Pinto was an Econobox designed by people who did not know how to make Econoboxes. There were lots of little corners cut here and there, but the most glaring of which Ford still hasn't fully recovered from as far as reputation goes, and that is the fact that if you back into something or someone hits you from behind in this Ford Pinto, it will more than likely explode. See, like most vehicles, the gas tank is in the back end of the car. It helps with stability and things like that. However, Ford put theirs too far back and made it so that the crash bars would functionally puncture the gas tank in any form of rear-end collision. This, of course, was memed and made fun of left, right, and center by many people over the years. In fact, one video I remember seeing, a guy literally hit it with a hammer and went like it's some kind of atomic bomb. It was pretty funny. Naturally, these days, if you even find one, it's probably gonna have a yellow door, mismatched panel, something to that effect, because they were not kept around very long. I guess Ford really didn't like the fact that their cars were prone to killing people in a fiery blaze. Staying in line with Ford, let's talk about the 90s Explorers. Ford knew that they needed to fix their SUV game, and they knew that basically the Bronco was the only thing they had to offer. They needed to expand their lineup, much like how Chevy and just about every other Japanese manufacturer had already started doing. Problem was they decided to choose the results on their safety ratings, and the end result was that these SUVs would roll over. Picture a gigantic SUV and you take a turn at 35 and nothing holds together, the tires slip, and you are now rolling across the highway, probably getting whiplash or just killed in general, because it was the 90s and people didn't really care about buckling laws yet. If you want to learn more about it, Donut Media actually made a really good video about it. Now I know that this next one on my list is going to get me in some hot water with a friend of mine over on TikTok named Synthetic Blinker Fluid, but let's talk about the Chevy Corvair. The Chevy Corvair was actually a very interesting car, and if you've never seen some of the engineering behind it, it was pretty impressive for Chevy at the time. It was one of their first ever rear-mounted engine setups. It was also one of the few cars that looked like a muscle car, but really wasn't. And it had a very niche reputation amongst its fans. However, to the wider world, this rear-mounted setup was very unfamiliar to a lot of people, as most people didn't have Porsches at the time and had no idea what rear-mounted engine configurations felt like under load. Quite literally, a lack of driver skill is what was the problem with the Chevy Corvair. And Chevy didn't put in a rear anti-roll bar, which meant that it would just completely spin out. They would give it way too much gas and gusto and cause themselves to spin out. In fact, some people were claiming that they were able to spin out at even low speeds because the back end just wanted to kick around. This, of course, led to some investigations, and a very famous book was actually written about this car called Unsafe at Any Speed by Ralph Nader. Of course, Ralph Nader's book was absolutely damning for this project, and by '69, the Corvair was no longer available. And next up on my list, I have Mazda and their Spider recall. Now, when I say Spider, you might immediately think, oh, car channel, he's going to talk about some kind of pop top, drop top kind of configuration. No, actually, surprisingly, we're talking about the arachnids. Mazda has had several recalls around spider-related problems with their cars, and for reasons you would just never think would be a thing. Yet, people were being horrified when they were finding spiders all over the insides of their cars. In 2009 and in 2010, Mazda recalled 50,000 of their Mazda 6s because they were full of spiders. They were finding spider webs in their gas tank ventilation systems. It turns out these spiders that were in the cars were attracted to the smell of the fuel and thus were going into places they shouldn't, creating fire hazards inside of these vehicles. Basically, these spiders would create blockages, not allowing the air to escape the gas tank, causing pressures to rise, rupturing the tank, and of course, creating fires. The yellow sac spiders created such a problem for them that they actually had to create coating for their Mazda 6 models from 2010 to 2012 to clear the lines of any sort of blockages created by these spiders. And sadly, Mazda's troubles with these spiders were not over, as in 2014 they had to recall another 65,000 models for the exact same problem. You would think that after all the issues they had that first time around that they had figured out their problems for the second time around, but unfortunately it appeared that that wasn't fully the case. I wanted to put it out there and say that there were many more vehicles that I wanted to shove into this. Things like the Suzuki Samurai and how it's not actually a dangerous car, people sabotage it and things like that. But this one caught my eye and made me go, huh, imagine that. See, when you think of prestigious, high tier, high class, high caliber supercars, you don't expect there to be any sort of danger involved. They've tuned these machines to be really fast, yes, and they can be dangerous as a result of the speed, but you don't expect them to have inherent manufacturer flaws where they have to recall thousands of cars. Well, to put a capstone on this list, let's talk about the Ferrari 458 Italia. You see, I myself had no idea about this because when it came out, I was still in high school. I still wanted to get one, but it was kind of a distant, faraway thing and not so easily accessible like it is now. For whatever reason, the initial launch of the 458 Italia would literally blow up and catch on fire. Now, for a company as, snooty fahooty as they are, this is not a good thing, and in fact, Ferrari's entire initial release had to be recalled, somewhere around 1,200 cars. Come to find out that some of the materials they used in their cars was actually entirely flammable, and as a result, it meant that these fender liner pieces were now just tinder boxes waiting to get caught on fire. Their solution, rivet every single fender on, no longer using the stick-on method. Now it's going to be held in place using metal. Not a bad solution, just the thought of a flaming horse, it's a little terrifying. Especially if that horse is doing $130 on a freeway. There's like Italian Ghost Rider vibes going on there that I'm not sure if I'm okay with. So on this list, we've had spiders, fires, things that are wrong with the vehicle that could cause fires, and things that will cause the vehicle to spin out or flip. These are serious manufacturer flaws, and of course, all of them dangerous. I mean, could you imagine being in a car and just spiders start falling out of things because they've laid egg sacs in the vehicle because it's been sitting on the lot for that long? Or your car randomly just exploding on the freeway and being the newest incarnation of Ghost Rider or whatever flaming horseman you could think of. Like that, I couldn't imagine. And I drive Mitsubishis, right? Cars that supposedly are notoriously not great. Yet I've never really had any problems with mine. It's not me bagging on these companies. It's just, Hilarious to me because I get bagged on all the time for the cars that I drive. But other videos to look forward to from us here in October, we're going to be going over haunted cars, cars that have a haunted legacy. We've got Hollywood horror cars, and of course, we got to talk about more recalls because I think that's really funny to look at. All this and more is coming up here on Car Rant, and to give you guys, if you've made it this far into the video, a sneak peek, that's my company's property over here. This pickup truck right behind me is my Mighty Max, and I think we might actually go do like a trunk or treat thing with this. So stay tuned for that fun episode. That's gonna be a nice little bonus Car Rant extra, something we haven't done in a hot minute. This video's gone on long enough, so without further ado, thank you all for watching. God bless y'all. Stay safe out there this October, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. All right, time to go research ghosts and stuff. Should I play the Dead Mouse record? I think that'd be a fun little thing to add to my to-do list.